Oh, honey, grab a tissue because what you're about to hear is absolutely heartbreaking. You know how they say heavy is the head that wears the crown? Well, in this case, it's the little head of a future king who isn't even a teenager yet. Prince George, sweet little George, he's only 11, but the stuff he's dealing with, it's enough to break your heart into a million pieces. It all went down during this tense royal family get-together at Balmoral, and let me tell you, things were far from picture perfect. George saw something that no child ever should, and when it all got too much, he broke down, alone. But just wait until you hear what a royal staff member told him when they found him like that. You won't believe it. This story, it's about pressure, heartbreak, loyalty, and the kind of strength that only a child with the heart of a king could have. Let's dive in. Okay, listen to this. Prince George has always known he wasn't like other kids. Not in a "I'm so special" way, but in a "your entire life is already mapped out" way. From the moment he was cradled in Kate's arms and photographed by the whole world, his path was already set. And now that he's 11, oh, he's feeling it. The word king has been floating around him for as long as he can remember. But now, it's not just a word anymore. It's a shadow, following him everywhere. He watches his dad, Prince William, with those perfectly timed smiles. You know, the kind that look real but feel rehearsed? And Kate, always so graceful, so poised. But George, he sees things. The tight hand-holding, the shared glances, the way they subtly avoid rooms when Camilla's around. Yup, even a child notices those things. And George, he never complains. He's the eldest, the rock. When Charlotte is upset, he comforts her. When little Louis is confused, George is right there. No one tells him to do it, he just does. Because that's what big brothers do. And maybe because he already knows he has to act like a king in training. But let's not forget, he's just a kid. A kid who sometimes lies in bed at night, wide awake, thinking about what kind of king he's supposed to be, and worse, wondering if he even has a choice. Now here's where things get a little chilly. Camilla. George feels her presence like a cold draft in the palace. She's polite, yes, but it's hollow. She brushes off Charlotte's sweet attempts to connect. She barely responds to Louis's innocent questions. George sees it. He doesn't talk about it, but he stores it all away in that big heart of his. He sees the cracks in the family, and he already knows. His childhood isn't about playdates and cartoons. It's about preparing for a destiny he never asked for. So picture this. George was actually excited to head to Balmoral. I mean, who wouldn't be? Open hills, muddy boots, secret forts with Louis. It was supposed to be a family getaway. He even packed his favorite book. But the minute they arrived, oh honey, the vibe was off. George noticed it instantly. The fake smiles. The way Camilla's tone went sharp when she spoke to Kate. And William? Distracted. Distant. George is no fool. He knows when people are pretending. And while Charlotte and Louis went out to play with Camilla's grandkids, George, he stayed back, watching. Because that's what he does. And what he saw? Oh, it was enough to make your stomach turn. Camilla's grandkids, laughing without including Charlotte, turning their backs, whispering, Louis trying to keep up and getting ignored. George had to jump in again and again, steering them away, distracting them, saving their little hearts from more hurt. No one told him to. No one asked. He just knew someone had to. And it didn't stop there. At lunch, Camilla laughing way too hard at something one of her grandkids said. Right after, Kate's face changed, a quick flicker of pain. Not loud, not obvious, but George caught it. Then later, Charlotte sitting alone while Camilla's granddaughter strutted through the garden like she owned the place, smirking. George was done. He saw through it all. The divide, the coldness, the way even the children could feel it. And guess what? He didn't say a word. He just observed, quietly, heartbreaking a little more with each passing hour. That excitement he felt, completely gone. What was supposed to be a loving family gathering had turned into a silent battlefield. And George? He saw every silent wound, every forced smile, and he knew something was seriously wrong. So get this, Balmoral has this hidden gem, the Rose Garden. It's Prince George's little escape, tucked behind hedges, away from all the royal drama. That afternoon, after everything that had been going on, George wandered there alone. He didn't even know what he was looking for. Peace, maybe. A second to breathe. But fate had other plans. He was just about to step into the clearing when he froze. He spotted little Louis, his baby brother, crouched near a bush, fascinated by a butterfly. So innocent. And just a few feet away, Camilla's eldest granddaughter, arms crossed, eyes locked on Louis. And then, out of nowhere, she said it. And trust me, what she said, "You're not ready." She looked Louis right in the face and said, "Everyone knows your mommy's just pretending to be queen. She'll never be like Diana. Even my gran says so." Can you even imagine? George's heart practically stopped. Diana. That name isn't just a name in their house. It's sacred, holy, spoken with love and pain and respect. To hear it used like that, as a weapon, it was like getting slapped. And poor Louis, his little face crumbled. He didn't even fully understand what she meant, but he knew it hurt. He blinked, confused. Then his lips started trembling. And then he ran, full-on sprinted away, little arms flailing, sobbing, his heart completely shattered. And George? Frozen. He wanted to run after him, he wanted to yell, but something in him just broke. He couldn't move. He just stood there, hidden behind the ivy, watching his baby brother disappear, hurting, crying, and he'd done nothing. Camilla's granddaughter? She shrugged and skipped away like nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just wrecked a little boy's heart. A few moments later, George peeked through the hedges, and what he saw next? Oh, it tore him apart. Kate, his mum, was kneeling on the grass, arms wrapped around Louis, whispering soft words, her face full of pain. From that distance, George couldn't hear her, but he could feel her heartbreak. It was in every movement, every tear she wiped away from Louis's cheeks. George backed away, quiet, broken, ashamed. He had just seen what cruelty looks like, and for the first time, the crown didn't just feel heavy, it felt suffocating. Because what good is being a prince, future king or not, if you can't even protect the people you love most? That same day, as the sun dipped behind a thick layer of clouds, casting a dull gray light over Balmoral, George found Charlotte. She was sitting all alone under this huge sycamore tree, fidgeting with her dress, looking lost. She had seen Louis cry, she had seen Kate rush to him, she had felt it all, but like George, she didn't know how to talk about it. George sat beside her quietly. He didn't say anything at first. What was there to say? How do you tell your little sister you just watched their brother get emotionally crushed by their own blood? So instead, he just took her hand, gave it a squeeze, and in that one tiny gesture, Charlotte leaned into him. That moment, it said more than words ever could. Finally, Charlotte whispered, "I hate when Louis cries. It makes everything feel wrong." And George, oh, he felt that. It didn't just feel wrong, it felt cruel. But what haunted George the most wasn't what had happened, it was what he didn't do. He hadn't stepped in. He hadn't stopped it. And that silence, it was louder than any scream. He didn't blame Louis. He didn't even fully blame the girl. No, he was angry at something much bigger, at a system where people like Camilla's grandkids could cut others down and walk away untouched. He was furious at the silence, the fake smiles, the pretending, and he was starting to realize, being the eldest, being a future king, it wasn't a shield, it was a spotlight. "I should have stopped it," he muttered. Charlotte didn't need to answer, she just knew. That's the kind of bond they had. He hugged his knees to his chest, and finally, he let himself cry. Not just a tear or two, number-full, chest-heaving sobs, the kind that rattle your bones. He cried for Louis, for what he saw in that garden. He cried for Charlotte, who shouldn't have to learn about cruelty so young. He cried for his mum, for the pain she swallowed daily. He cried for William, who wore his silence like armor. And most of all, George cried for himself, because for the first time in his life, he felt completely useless. What was the point of being a prince, of becoming king, if he couldn't protect the people who mattered most? He hated that invisible crown. Not the shiny one people see in paintings, but the one that steals your childhood, the one that demands perfection, the one that tells an 11-year-old boy, "Don't cry, be strong." Well, guess what? He couldn't be strong anymore. His sobs echoed softly against the stone walls. No one knew he was there. No one saw the little prince breaking in silence. And in that moment, George realized something that would stay with him forever. Being royal doesn't just weigh down your shoulders, it crushes your heart. Now, here's where the story shifts. This is where something beautiful happens. As the sun dipped behind the Scottish hills and dinner prep buzzed inside the castle, one person wasn't caught up in royal schedules. Thomas, an older footman, quiet, loyal, sharp as a tack. He'd been with the family for over 20 years, and trust me, he noticed everything. He was doing his usual evening rounds, strolling through the estate, when he passed near that old courtyard. And something, maybe instinct, maybe fate, made him stop. It was too quiet, not peaceful quiet, heavy quiet. Then he heard it, a sound so soft, so broken, it barely registered, a muffled sob. Thomas followed it, through the ivy arch, into the courtyard, and there, curled up on the cold ground, was Prince George. Thomas froze. This wasn't the George he'd seen in official portraits or at formal events. This was a child, shaking, tear-streaked, with hair falling out of place and eyes red from crying. Thomas's heart, it broke right then and there, but he didn't panic, didn't call anyone, didn't rush. He simply stepped forward slowly, respectfully. "Your Highness," he said softly, his voice full of warmth. "May I sit with you?" George didn't answer, but he didn't move away either, and that was enough. Thomas eased himself down beside him, groaning a little from the cold stone, then waited. No questions, no speeches, just presence. Minutes passed. Finally, Thomas spoke. Quiet, measured. "You've been carrying a lot, haven't you?" George gave the tiniest nod. It was all he could manage. "I've seen it," Thomas continued. "Not just today. For a while now. You've been holding everything in." George wiped his face with his sleeve. His voice cracked. I'm supposed to be strong, but I feel small, and I don't know how to make it stop hurting. And Thomas? He didn't flinch, didn't correct him. Instead, he leaned closer and said something no one else had dared to say. You're not small, you're brave. Real bravery isn't pretending things are okay, it's feeling everything and still choosing to care. George looked up, eyes swimming in tears again, and for the first time, someone saw him. Not the heir, not the polished prince, just the boy, hurting, hoping, barely holding on. That moment, it changed everything. Because in a family that asked for silence, Thomas gave him space to speak, and in a world that demands strength, he gave George permission to feel. George permission to feel.